Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Cody Kinsey. I'm a security researcher at Varonis, and today we have our special return guest host, Michael, back to show today what we're going to do when we find a malicious device and don't know what it's up to, don't know what it could be maybe transmitting. We're going to go through the steps that you might go through if you were to find, for example, a keylogger like the one that we showed off not that long ago. So fairly recently, I discovered that we had our keylogger was somehow plugged into my keyboard and had been there for about a day. Now, fortunately, this was probably just a mistake, and it also caused a keyboard error that made it very obvious because it turns out when you take one of these Wi-Fi keyloggers and plug them into a hub, it actually messes up the keys and causes it to send a bunch of repetitious ones and also kind of like mess up the key map. So I found out that there was a keylogger here, but we wanted to find out, like, was it doing anything different than the last time we had configured it? Like, it seemed like an innocent thing, but you never know. So we want to go through the steps of if you find a Wi-Fi keylogger or some other Wi-Fi related device where you're not sure what it's up to, how you would go about actually discovering what it's doing and get some clues about, what it is or what it might be reporting back to, if it is in fact a keylogger like the one we have today. Michael, do you want to show it off? Unplug it.
Can we unplug it?
Yes. I wouldn't have said so if yeah.
But yeah, so it is this here. So it's actually this little part here.
This is the Wi-Fi keylogger. So this is pre-programmed to connect to a Wi-Fi network as well as generate its own hotspot and allow somebody to connect to it and download the log. Now there's two different ways that a hacker could do this. They could either, let's say that it's somebody who is in your household or in the same workplace as you, and they have access to Wi-Fi nearby. Or they could even be providing their own Wi-Fi network via just broadcasting a signal so this device can connect back. In that case, this can be set up to stream over UDP. So basically send all the keystrokes as they happen over to the attacker who's just sitting there reading them in real time. Now, if time isn't critical, the hacker can also deploy this and then maybe late at night try to connect to it and download the logs and be able to see everything that happened during the day. But this doesn't come with like real-time ability to see what's happening, so it might not be as useful to someone who wanted to get as much information as possible. So today we're going to make a couple assumptions. You've found a keylogger, it's Wi-Fi compatible, so it's connecting over Wi-Fi, and it's able to connect back to some other network. Now, part of what we're going to do today involves knowing the Wi-Fi password that it connects back to. And in all likelihood, if you did find this in like your home or your workplace, the person who put it there either knows the Wi-Fi password for the general Wi-Fi of the house or the workplace, or they might know the Wi-Fi password for somewhere next door, if it's maybe a neighbor or something like that. And that means that this will probably be connecting back to a Wi-Fi network that you can get the password for. Now, if you do find a device like this and it's connected to a Wi-Fi that you don't know the password to, but you can see that Wi-Fi network, then you would need to go through the additional steps of cracking the Wi-Fi password by kicking this little device off the network, recording the handshake when it comes back online, and then brute forcing it from a good password list, which is relatively easy to do. And if you really need to crank it up, you can always just get an AWS instance that has like a GPU enabled and really just go crazy on it by throwing an absolute ton of passwords on it and probably breaking in pretty quickly. So today we're going to go with a scenario that this is connecting to our home network or our work network. So we actually do know the password of the network that it's connecting to. And this is significant because in Wireshark, we can actually decode what it's doing and get started understanding a little bit about like maybe where this is sending data or how it's configured, or possibly what other computer on the network it's sending data to. Now, if this person just set it up kind of lazily and didn't set up a remote server, this could allow you to identify the person, maybe at the same office or in the same household, who put the keylogger there. So this is a useful way of trying to figure out exactly who set this up or where the data is sent, but we are going to show a sneaky way that an attacker could get around this. Michael, do you know how that might work?
Well, like if I was on the same network, an easy thing to do would be like a middle device where like it's like a Raspberry Pi or something that it sends to. So that way it's less conspicuous than going to, hacker's laptop. You could also probably try to do something like that with like AWS if you were going to go out to the wider internet.
Right. So you could either set up an AWS server, or, as Michael was kind of alluding to, you could send it to a different computer. Now, Michael, if you were sending it to a Raspberry Pi that was already on the network, I presume, how exactly would you get the information from that Raspberry Pi?
Yeah, you would have to connect to the Raspberry Pi. So
Wrong.
wait,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
What?
So this is the scenario. Let's say that we have a Wi-Fi network, and we also have this little keylogger that we want to put on the network, and we want to frame someone for being the one who's getting this data. Well, let's say that I have Michael's computer on that network, and then me, Cody, over here, I have my computer, but I've put it into wireless monitor mode, and I'm sniffing the network packets. Now, when Michael, connects or whatever, he's not going to know that that this device is sending a bunch of keystrokes to him because he's not listening for it. But this device is using UDP. Now, Michael, do you know a characteristic of UDP when it comes to transmitting and whether or not it checks if that transmission was completed?
No, I'm not super familiar.
It doesn't care. So
Okay.
UDP will just continuously broadcast stuff, and it doesn't ever check to make sure that those packets were received. So this is, in our case as a hacker, actually a really good thing, because we can send we can tell our keylogger to send a UDP stream to Michael's laptop, which he'll never see. But as hackers, we can sniff the traffic, and we can see all those packets, and we can decode them. So we can basically read messages that are being sent to Michael's computer.
That's super sneaky.
Exactly, just by sniffing. And that's actually what we're going to do today. We're going to be reading messages that are sent by the keylogger over the Wi-Fi network. And I think one of them is going to be sent to like a mail server, and another one's going to be sent to somebody malicious on our local server. So what our goal is here is to figure out who likely has a server set up and is listening, but it's not definitive. A really clever hacker could just be sniffing on the network and frame somebody else for having done this, which I think is really funny because I just thought of that.
Well, yeah, something else I was going to say is you didn't really touch on it, but we have the physical device, and it is very easy to hide, like in a desktop or something like that. But there are the integrated modules that, if it's an office or something like that, they're going to have like a standardized keyboard or something like that. So you just buy one of them on Amazon, stick that module in there, and then you just got to swoop by for like 2 seconds and switch out the keyboard. And that person would never know. Assuming there was never any problem like you had, but that was like a real specialized circumstance where you were like having a switcher that switched between two computers on the same keyboard and stuff like that, then I don't know how a person would find out.
Yeah, it would be really difficult to find out. I mean, the only reason I realized that this had been plugged into my computer was because it started making some of my most used hotkeys fail. So that was a big red flag that something was up. I checked the physical connection, and lo and behold, there was something in there causing a problem, a keylogger. But if this was an integrated version where you put it inside the keyboard, that it would be really, really difficult to know that this was in there, and it seems to do a really good job of logging basically everything. So there's a lot of steps we're going to need to take here until we get to the point we're able to see traffic from this little device. Right now, all we know is that there's this suspicious device. It relies on a Wi-Fi connection in order to work, so very likely it's on our network. We can also do something like use Fing Network Scanner to go through and check our home Wi-Fi network to see if there's anything there that we don't recognize. And I think that we also could just scan for... I think this comes up as an Espressif device, I believe.
Yeah.
So Espressif devices, or looking for Espressif devices, we showed the Wi-Fi Marauder earlier, which actually allows you to scan specifically for Espressif devices. But also if you were to use the Advanced Deauthor or the Andromeda Deauthor by Spacehoon, I believe that will also tell you what the manufacturer is, and you can look for any Espressif devices on your network. Although there are lots of IoT devices that do use ESP8266s or ESP32s. So it's good to do kind of a before and after if you're able to see if anything new has popped up. But still, if you have an IoT device, you can just unplug it and run the scan again. And that's an easy way to just start kind of eliminating the variables until you know exactly what's what on your network.
Yeah.
So we're looking for an Espressif device or something else that's sketchy on our network, and we want to be able to figure out okay, is this actually the right thing? And then if it is the right thing, can we actually start looking at what it's doing and what are the barriers between us and that? So let's go ahead and get started. We have this device, we don't know what it is yet, and right now, I mean, well, okay, I wasn't going to switch over yet, but sure, no, it's fine, you can see my Dougal if you want to. What we got to start with is like, we have to figure out and definitively prove that, in fact, this thing is connecting to our Wi-Fi network. So let's go ahead and start doing that. And hopefully Michael will blur this a bit judiciously so you guys can see some of what's going on.
Well, so, something occurs to me too is even if it wasn't connected to your Wi-Fi network, you could always just like put an aluminum foil box around it and then like a Wi-Fi monitor card and see like what it's connecting to.
Maybe. Okay.
Or what is attempting to connect to.
Yeah. I don't know if an aluminum thing...
Well, you know what I mean. Impromptu Faraday cage.
You mean like a Faraday cage? What would you make that out of, though?
Metal?
I'm going to let you sit with that. So, right. So first we need to figure out what wireless cards we have available to us. And first off, let's go ahead and just run ifconfig here. Or I guess I could do IPA. I want to be modern about it. We can see right here we have WLAN 0. So that's what we need to work with today. We need to take this card from just regular mode, which it's in right now, and put it into wireless monitor mode. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to use, let me enlarge this a bit. No. Control. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is run sudo airmon ng start WLAN 0. And this is going to put our card into wireless monitor mode. That's the first step. But now we need to figure out, what channel is our wireless network operating on. There's like 12 or 11 different channels in the United States. So if you want to be listening in on the correct channel, you need to first run a scan to make sure you can identify what network you should be listening on. Otherwise, you're going to be listening on every single network, and it's going to be really annoying and confusing because there will be way too much data. So we're going to cut through the noise by looking for our network by, and actually, another way we can do this, it might work, it might not. Let's try it just to be risky. So I'm going to say that I don't know what this thing is connected to yet at all. I'm, it's totally up in the air. So I'm going to run sudo arrow dump ng. So this is going to dump all the data coming in on the wireless card. And I'm not going to specify a channel yet. I'm just going to say WLAN 0 mon. Now, Michael, what I want you to do is unplug that. And as soon as I start running this, I want you to plug it in. So let me go ahead, plug it in. So this is going to start running. It's jumping to a bunch of different networks. And really what I'm looking for is a couple things. First, this is going to tell me the channel that my network is operating on, which is great. Second, it's going to tell me if any devices are freshly connecting to networks. Now, it's very likely that I will miss this handshake when it actually happens because we're jumping around on so many different channels. But we can see that our network is operating on channel 6. So it's a reasonable assumption that if we wanted to zero in a little bit and check to see if it's actually connecting to our network and not miss those handshakes because we're like searching around on another channel, we should switch over and just listen to channel 6. So I know the keylogger takes a good like couple seconds, like sometimes almost a minute to start up. I think I've given it like a pretty reasonable amount of time. And my assumption is that we have missed the network that it's connected to. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. And at this point, we need to figure out whether or not this thing is connecting to our Wi-Fi network. So I'm going to modify this. Now that I know that we are operating on channel 6, I'm going to add -C6. And this will restrict the card so that it's not jumping around to every single possible Wi-Fi channel. It's only going to be looking at channel 6. All right, so now we see a lot more traffic. And the reason for this is we're not skipping around on different networks. We are just on, or different channels rather, we're just on this one. And we can see a dramatically increased amount of data packets coming through. Now, Michael, can you unplug and plug in again, please?
Yep. It usually takes like 15 seconds.
Yeah, so what we're going to look for is a handshake. And if we see this handshake, then we can get two things here. One, we can hopefully get the MAC address of the device that's trying to connect, which will let us know what the sketchy device's MAC address is. And two, we will prove once and for all that this device, oh, there we go. All right, so take a look. We have a Wi-Fi handshake on a MAC address that starts with 68 and ends with 64. So that's going to be this one, which is our network. So we've definitively proved that this device is connecting back to our home network. I'm sorry, are you busy?
No.
You look very distracted.
Yeah, it's not showing up on our router.
Okay. So It is showing up here. I see it.
Yeah.
So we can also see there's an interesting bug with this device. So this device seems to be broadcasting old networks that it was connected to. So I've informed Jonty of this. It's kind of a weird thing, but even if you put in a new network, sometimes it will revert back to an old one that you've programmed before, and it seems to be broadcasting them kind of indiscriminately. So here, I'm going to cancel, and basically what I've proved here is that we definitively can say that this network is the one that this device is connecting to. And if we want to be able to diagnose it further, we're going to need to go inside the network. And we're going to need to decrypt the traffic of the Wi-Fi network so that we can see exactly what this thing is up to. Now, Michael, do you think that we can just read these packets coming over an encrypted Wi-Fi network normally, or do we have some work we have to do first?
Yeah, no, we need to take the handshake and do the hash and give it to Wireshark and all that stuff, right?
Right. So there's two different ways we can do this. And traditionally, like what I will do is I'll take the Wi-Fi network name and password and put them into a free tool by Wireshark, which is online. You can just look up WPA PSK Wireshark is the search term. And what that brings up is, and I would go to it, but I'm in monitor mode, so my internet's not going to work. What that will bring up is a little tool that will take your Wi-Fi network name and password and combine it into this big long hash that you can then just give to Wireshark, and it will decrypt the traffic with some caveats. In order to decrypt the traffic, it needs to see that device connect to the network. So if you are a hacker, you would need to basically disconnect that person for a second first, and then when they reconnected, you would be able to see everything they were doing. Because in order for this to work, you need to be present during the negotiation of the key of them joining the network. So this will not work against devices that have been connected to the network prior to you figuring this out and starting to sniff. You'll need to kick them off before this actually works. Very frustrating and often confuses beginners. So there's also some specific formatting you can do to just put in the wireless network name and password, and that's the way I'm going to be doing it today. I forget this formatting all the time, but it is, I think it's just with the colon or something to separate the two. We'll go over it in just a bit. So, all right, so we need to go ahead and start sniffing on channel 6 again. So let's go ahead and run sudo aerodump ng wlan0mon -c6. That's saying that we want to start dumping all the network traffic from wlan0mon, that card, in monitor mode on channel 6. Then in a different window, we're going to go ahead and open up Wireshark. So if I just open this up without actually doing anything else, it's going to tell me I don't have sufficient permissions to see what's happening on the traffic. So I have to do sudo Wireshark, and there we go. Okay, so we can see wlan0mon is one of our options. So if we get started, we need to go ahead and identify the device. So I'm going to start. I'm going to start by typing in epoll,
which is
handshakes.
handshake.
So go ahead and unplug and plug in again, and we are going to monitor for this device connecting. And this is very handy because it will also give us the ability to see everything that device is doing after it connects. So we're going to construct a filter after we identify this device connecting to our network so that in Wireshark, we'll be able to keep track of all the packets that are going to and from this suspicious device. So here we go. We can see that we've intercepted keys number 1, 2, and 4. Okay,
Nice.
well that doesn't seem like all of them. Up, and there's number 3. Okay, so now we have all of the keys. So we should be able to start intercepting this. And we can see this has been identified as an expressive device by its MAC address. So that gives us another clue as to its identity. So let's go ahead and construct a filter in Wireshark. Do you know how to do that, Michael?
Yeah, you type it up in that yellow bar up there. But I don't
It's
remember.
green, but
or whatever. The
right.
the colored bar at the top.
So not exactly. The easiest way to construct a filter is to select the element that you want to use as a filter. Let's say the transmitter address. Right mouse click on it, and then go to right here, apply. You're not even looking. Apply as filter. So then we can do selected. So what that will do is automatically construct a filter, but this isn't everything.
Nice.
So this is, do you know what .ta stands for?
No.
That's going to be transmitter address.
Ah.
So if I copy this and then I add have two pipe symbols. Do you know what that means?
And or?
Yes, you're very close. So it means or.
Or.
Right.
Okay.
So if I do that and then I paste right here in the exact same expression as before, I'm going to change a single character. So this is WLAN.TA, and that means transmitter address. Now it's .da. Do you know what that means?
Destination address.
Exactly. So now we are looking for anything with a transmitter address of the sketchy device or a destination address of the sketchy device. So basically what this filter is saying anything to or from. Right. So let's go ahead and see what we're picking up. So we're starting at the top, and we can see we've got some broadcasts. And this gives us, for example, the identity of the network that it's trying to connect to. That's useful. If I scroll over, I think, yeah, we just see like the network that it's looking for. And we can definitively say, yes, this thing is looking for that network. So we see it attempts to associate. Very cool. It then gets an association request with the exchange. It exchanges keys. And then there we go. So now we can see this DHCP exchange. That means that we've managed to successfully strip back the layer of encryption that is protecting this communication. We're now able to see this getting its DHCP assigned IP address. So at a certain point, we're going to start associating traffic from this device with an IP address on our network, which allows us to do more in terms of monitoring and whatever else. So let's scroll down. We can see we're getting DNS. So now so this device is starting up, and it's connecting to time.nist.gov. So this is basically obtaining the network time over the internet as soon as it starts up as one of the first things that it does. We can also say here that it is doing some Arp Scans, so it's looking around and seeing what else is on the network. And it's trying to identify also 192.168.0.229. Okay, interesting. So is that because it itself is 229? I guess we'll find out. So we go down a little bit, and we can see it gets the network time. Okay, very cool. And then we have a little bit more exchange, and we get another ARP request, and it's saying, hey, who has 192.168.0.129? Tell the router right now. It's like, okay, and it gets that exchange back. And then, all right, what else do we have? So at this point, we don't really have any other functions. So Michael, go ahead and type some stuff on the cursed keyboard, please. Okay, look at that. We're getting something. So at this point, we have a UDP stream. So every time Michael types, it seems like we're getting some traffic. And if we take a look at this, it's actually going to 192.168.1.186. So at this point, we have our attacker, which is over here at 192.168.0.229, and it is sending traffic over to 192.168.1.86. So that's interesting. I wonder what this is. And we can also see that it's attempting to ping as well, and it's saying that the destination is unreachable. So if we go into this, we can scroll down a little bit and see exactly what the details of this are. And we can see that, yes, this is sending out a ping to a destination, and that destination is unreachable. So what that could mean is that the computer that this is streaming to might not even be online. So in this case, we could be, again, this could just be a decoy that is sending traffic to something that isn't, really the master destination. So we see there's a lot of interesting stuff here until we get here. So if we want to see if there's exfiltration going on, we can search through all these packets we've intercepted and try to find something that's more interesting. So let's go ahead and click on the search tool, and then we can go through and decide on what we want to search for. So a regular expression, a string, a hex value, a display filter. In this case, we're going to use a string. Now we can look. Okay, so we can look through the packet list, the packet details, or the packet bytes. So the packet bytes, I can do things like look for my own name, make sure Michael's not talking about me. Nope, nothing in there. Okay, what about mail? No, okay. So now we don't see anything in the packet bytes. Let's try the packet details. So now we have packet details. Let's try to find that. Oh, okay, so we have a hit. So we found in some of the packet details a connection to an SMTP server. So it looks as though this is attempting to connect to a mail server and basically negotiate some sort of connection. So that's not good. So how would we follow up on this a little further? Well, we can kind of scroll down. We can see there's a TLS connection that starts here. And we can see that the, so this is attempting to pass information over a secure connection between itself and another server. In this case, it's going to be the mail server. So we can go through and we can also learn more about like what this is connecting to by learning about what's being resolved. So within Wireshark, and actually I should probably go ahead and type a couple more messages. Please keep them somewhat appropriate, just secrets, please. So Michael's going to type a couple more messages here before I stop this capture, just so we have an abundance of different packets to look through. And then we're going to take a look at some of the different things that were resolved on the network, so maybe we can learn a little bit more about what was going on.
Okay.
See, we can get a handshake message. So one of the things we can go to, I think up here, conversations.
What does that mean in this context?
So we can take a look at conversations between endpoints. So in this case, we can see there's IPv6, IPv4. So we can go through here and take a look at exactly who was talking to what. And I'm going to click on name resolution. And what that's going to do is it's going to resolve the servers that this was talking to. So this is really useful because if there was anything just straight up like malicious, then that would probably tip us off right there. But we can see here that we were able to identify two conversations. One was with the time server, and the second was with smtp.gmail.com. So it looks very much as though some information was actually exchanged or exfiltrated. So very, very cool, yes. So this gives us just a little bit of a clue as to what's going on. We can also see TCP connections and UDP connections. So UDP connections over here, we can see that there was some UDP connections to 192.168.1.186. So that is currently our suspect, I guess, because we can see that there was a UDP connection made to this, and there was some information exchange. We don't know exactly what it was.
Very suspicious.
Right. So, and again, this is just going through the conversations window and enabling name resolution. So I'm going to head and close this. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to look for a TCP connection. I'm going to right mouse click it, and then I'm going to click on follow. So this gives me the ability to stitch together all of the different parts of the conversation to understand a little bit better like what's going on. So when I do this, it prepares this view. I think it's still chewing on it. Yeah, it is.
It's thinking about it.
Yep.
Real hard.
And what we should see is basically the whole connection. There we go. The whole connection that occurred from this mail server. So we can see Google Trust Services, blah, 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 California. We can also see that this looks like it was downgraded. So this is using a type of security that like needs to be downgraded in order for it to work. Obviously, we're able to intercept at least the first part of it. So here we can go through and start looking for more strings that might be interesting. But really the most important part is we know that this is connecting to Gmail and it is sending something out. So the actual contents of that should be protected with TLS, but and as you can see here, it looks pretty scrambled.
We can see some headers at least.
Yeah, we can see like some of what's going on, but really the majority of it seems to be
gibberish.
But yeah, so at least we can see that this is going to a Gmail server, and we know a little bit about what's going on there. So let's see if we can recover the actual like text of what's going on. So now we have this TCP stream, whatever, it's changed our filter. Let's go ahead. We're going to go back to the filter I created, which is just sus device.
Okay.
And from here, what we're going to do is try to find a UDP stream. Now, this should allow us to basically see what has been exfiltrated while we have been scanning. So let's go ahead, look up here, and we can see there, UDP. So this is the UDP stream that is going to 192.168.1.186, our suspect, and we want to right mouse click on it, and we're going to follow, and then UDP stream. And it's going to chew on it a little bit, but typically UDP is a lot less tricky than TCP to reassemble stuff from. And there we go. Hello world. This is Michael Security Forward is best YouTube. Enter, enter, enter. Was that your secret message, Michael?
Pretty close, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so obviously we got some retransmitted packets here. But here's the tricky part of what we've done. Let's say that I was the attacker the whole time, and all my goal was to frame this other computer while intercepting everything that was typed anyway. Well, I could just do this, basically just sit here and intercept the UDP stream that's going to this other computer, and nobody would, well, hopefully nobody would suspect or see that my computer was actually connected to the network. Right now, it's interesting to note that my computer does not have an IP address on the network. It is completely outside this Wi-Fi network, and all I'm doing is digesting the packets and decrypting them on the fly in Wireshark. So this is a very stealthy attack because I could be, in another apartment building, maybe a half-mile away with the directional antenna, and still being able to do this kind of attack because it doesn't force me to actually connect to the Wi-Fi network. I can decrypt basically anything that I can receive, which is pretty interesting and pretty spooky.
That's pretty interesting. I'm trying to think of any way you could make this even stealthier. Like, could you have the keylogger create its own hidden Wi-Fi network and then just broadcast to nothing on that network and then
hidden Wi-Fi networks aren't very sneaky because it's still broadcasting and it's still extremely strong. So if you found a keylogger and then just saw that okay, there's an extremely strong network here, it just doesn't have a name. There's ways of getting it to give up its name and then figuring out what exactly is going on. For example, if you were to kick the keylogger, if it's generating, so you mean that
it's itself the hotspot,
yeah,
so it's not
so
broadcasting.
If you want to go the delayed route and use the access point method, then yes, this absolutely can just sit there and wait for you to connect to it and download. But this detection method is much more, of course, towards the active exfiltration model. But if you were doing passive exfiltration, where just when things died down every night, you were just connecting to a hidden Wi-Fi network and downloading some data. The only way a defender would be able to figure that out is just if they were doing logging and we're just wow, there was a weird data transfer in the middle of the night. It wasn't on our network, but it was super strong. And it seems as though it was from inside the building when no one was there. That would probably tip someone off that some sketchy stuff was happening. But again, it would really need to be monitored in order for this to be apparent.
Yeah, no, that's the kind of thing I was going to talk about too, is there are definitely ways to discover this device on your network if you have monitoring either on your router or you even just glance at it on occasion.
Right, so let's go ahead and take the next step where we know this thing's IP address on our network. So let's try to figure out some more information about this. So we know that this device, this expressive device, is being sketchy and doing some possibly nefarious things. And we know that its IP address is 192.168.0.229. Okay, so I'm going to go through here, and maybe I can just copy. I would love it if it just lets me copy and paste it. Are you going to just give me the IP address? No. Okay, well, it's short. I don't care. I'll just type it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop some of this. So first we need to go and we need to stop monitor mode. So we're going to go, let's see. We're going to do sudo aramon ng stop wlan, zeromon. So this should take our card out of wireless mode, and yep, it says the capture has stopped. Okay, cool. So then we're going to go ahead and run a Nmap scan. So hopefully this is actually going to connect to the correct, yeah, okay, we're on the correct network. All right, so sudo nmap 192.168.1, and what was it?
No, it's 0.229.
0.229, okay.
Yeah.
0.229. Let's go ahead and run that, see if anything comes up. Nope, doesn't like it. So let me try 1.229. Nope, doesn't like that either. So I'm going to go and double check. Actually, it could be blocking our pings. So let me try this and then do pn. It doesn't like that either. So let me go back up here, confirm that this has got that IP address. Yep, 192.168.0.229. And one thing I can also do is just run an Arp Scan. And this should give us a list of all the things that are connected to our network. We know what its, we know what its MAC address is. So this should be really helpful. And we can see it ends with 49. So do we have, is it on the network? Is it there? I don't see it. Oh wait, 47? No, I don't see it. Maybe you should unplug it and plug it back in.
Okay, because I see it on the network, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't.
Okay, it's been plugged back in.
Cool. So what our goal here is to basically see if we can poke around now that we know that this device is sketchy and actually identify, maybe if it has ports open, maybe if there's a way we can access it. So it's more than likely that this device would have a password set on it in the real world. But if this was a complete amateur and they'd never done this before, then maybe they forgot to set the password. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully it has come online. I still don't see it. But I'm also just going to copy the MAC address from here, I think.
Yeah, I don't see it on the network either now. I know that there was a... Okay, now it's on the network.
Value. All right, I'm very curious as to what this is going to give me. So if I paste... I tried to copy the MAC address. Yeah, okay, cool.
Clear the screen.
I'm sorry?
Clear the screen.
Sudo, and let's actually do sudo arp scan tac l, and then we're going to grep for this MAC address. Oops.
Gotta remember those quotes.
It doesn't see it still.
Yeah, no, I see it.
Yeah, I don't care that you can see it. That's not helpful to me.
Let me make sure you got the right
Yeah, I'm on the right network. So what's the IP address that it claims to have on the network?
192.168.
Hold on. Nmap. 192.168.
0.
229. 229. Oops. Well, that's clearly not going to work.
Yeah.
Something's up with this. So,
I mean, Wireshark was seeing it, right? But Nmap's not?
Yeah. Yeah, not... I'm going to try pinging it. 192.168.0.229. Unreachable. So maybe I'm just going to try disconnecting. I'm going to connect to another network, and then I'm going to try connecting back. Don't know why that would help, but I'll also go ahead and scan this network just to make sure that it didn't cross over somehow. So I'm going to do, once it lands, I'm going to do Arp Scan and then grep for the MAC address. Resource unavailable. Try again. What? It is. It's on the other one. So do you remember that bug I told you about? Occasionally, it will just connect to a totally... So I'm going to go ahead and run a scan. Sudo nmap 192.168.1.197. I'm actually just going to copy and paste it because I'm so paranoid at this point. It seems to be up. It seems to be up.
Yeah, I think the other network uses the 1 in the second to last position.
Yeah, they have slightly different network ranges. So, again, we're trying to figure out what's going on here. Like, why has this thing jumped over? But really, this creates a problem for the attacker and for the defender. For the defender, if you block this thing from your network and it has a second one that oh, there we go.
Yeah, it just disappeared from the normal
Yeah,
network.
So if you have this connected to your network and then you start blocking it or banning it from your network, if it's configured to connect to a different network, then it could just move on over to that network. So as we can see here, it is actually connected to a second Wi-Fi network because we configured it to do this before. And I found there's a bug in this where it will just randomly sometimes switch between Wi-Fi profiles that have been saved in it, which if you're a very far distance away from those two networks shouldn't cause a problem. But if you're really close to both of them, actually does cause a problem. Yeah. So let's go ahead then, and we can see that there is a port 80 open on this IP address. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it.
Well, and the important thing there too is there's no way to tell it not to connect to one of those after you given it one of the Wi-Fi networks. Because
Yes.
even after you delete that configuration.
Sorry, I should be clear. There's only one option to connect to a Wi-Fi network, but it's saving multiple and will switch between them randomly. So there's no way to delete stored ones because it's not supposed to store them. And there's only one that's supposed to be available at any given time. So we're going to go here. I'm going to specify port 80 so it doesn't try to connect over SSL. And here we can see that, there we go. Hello world, this is Michael. Security forward is best YouTube. So we've successfully connected to this rogue device. We can download all the stuff that's been exfiltrating, and we can go into the settings to see if we were right about the way that this is configured. So really, we were trying to kind of like take guesses about the way this was operating by just analyzing network traffic. And we're going to go ahead and confirm this by, if it works, going into the settings. So we can see this is generating an access point called regular net. That's not very interesting. It's doing regular key logging. Let's go to advanced. And remember, our clues were that it's connecting to a time server and that it's also connecting to a Gmail server and then sending over UDP. So we want to see if we can confirm this and basically double check that, all right, it is in fact exfiltrating over email, it's using Gmail just like we found, and it's also sending to a particular sketchy, suspicious computer. If it will actually go, come on. Come on. So
It's trying.
yeah.
It's really trying.
It is, and it's like we're also going over a router that's like pretty far away, which is why I suspect this thing is like kind of like just twitching a little bit. But
well, no, that's what's going to
hold up your computer, orient it towards the source of the
orient it
or
towards the source.
point it towards the kitchen, I guess. Who knows if that'll help? Let me try again.
The Wi-Fi gods. Pray to the
Advanced.
Wi-Fi gods.
Yeah, one thing I'll say is like the range on this is what you would expect for a little device that's embedded in some plastic that's tiny. So it's not going to, do an amazing job of broadcasting all the way through the house as it is currently attempting to do. But man, I guess it'll have to remain a mystery. Or rather, this will have to go, Michael, did you want to show? So Michael also, I like to show free tools for doing this, but Michael also has some Ubiquity equipment, which he claims would also allow you to be able to identify this device if you have Ubiquity and figure out a little bit more about it.
I mean, any router is going to be able to let you do that. It's just a matter of how accessible it is. If you, a lot of the ISPs now are shifting to like mobile apps that you have to use. If you have anything from like Amazon, you'll be able to just navigate to the default login page, which is 192.168.1.1 for most of them, and log in. And I think this is a pretty safe screen to show. So you usually can find a tab like this, which is like connected clients.
It's really small.
I mean, I can Command ++.
Yeah, do it.
There we go.
Okay, cool. Now I can see.
Yeah. And you'll see information like this, like what the client name is, IP address. It's not showing up here because it's no longer connected to this network. But one thing I was able to easily do is just filter by uptime. Plug it in, plug it in, and it'll always pop up. And if something I recommend people do on occasion is just go in your network, look through these devices, and be like, do I know each of these devices? What are all these devices? And then I'm not going to click on any.
Please. But yeah, one weakness that I will note from experimenting with this is if this device gets banned, it does not seem to have the ability to change its MAC address. So, I mean, I know that in theory it can change its MAC address, but I have not found an option to do so. So that's kind of interesting because it means, we're not really able to do anything about like a Ubiquity router deauthing us every single time that we connect to the Wi-Fi network because we've been identified as somebody who's doing malicious stuff. So there are some limitations to this, but really I think this is a pretty robust attack. And also this is like a pretty easy workflow for figuring out exactly like what this thing is, what it's doing on your network, and just kind of following up to discover whether or not it's cause for concern or if it's just your roommate pranking you again.
I am innocent. But no, certainly, I think the Wireshark approach is much better for actually discovering what device this is talking to. But if you're concerned that these might be in your network environment or whatever, there are a myriad of ways you could approach trying to find them. First of all, just look behind your desktop computer every once in a while. Like, I would have never discovered that this was plugged into my precious Rehoboam unless I was moving my mouse and keyboard back and forth a lot to plug into a server. But yeah, like because I can imagine like people at an office or stuff like that, like just look at your computer every once in a while.
Yeah, that would help. That would be a good thing. And like it definitely seems like this thing is like a little frozen. Oh wait, maybe no. I keep getting helpful.
Is it still frozen on advanced?
Well, it seems to be able to load most of the tabs, except the advanced tab is the one that it doesn't want to. And of course, that's the one that also like is going to show us everything that both you have to blur and like I already know because I set it up not that long ago. But yes, it is connecting over SMTP to Gmail, and yes, it is sending via UDP to a Netcat server that is just sitting there and digesting the information. So again, there is a couple sneaky things we can do. Like we can send the UDP stream towards the device we want to basically frame, and then we can just listen in via sniffing. And I think that might be the easiest way to cause some misdirection and also look a lot more stealthy on the network because you're still broadcasting, but you're broadcasting to like a device that like belongs there and that isn't suspicious. So if somebody was going around looking for suspicious traffic, they're probably not going to land on like one device broadcasting to another device on the network that are both supposed to be there. Whereas like, if you actually got an IP address on the network, then that starts looking a bit more sketchy if you're exfiltrating it that way. So.
Yeah, and that's something else I would say is if it's like in a target environment with a lot of like IoT product, it can be very indistinguishable because at least a lot of the stuff you're going to see on your home router and stuff, that's going to look like a smart light bulb or anything like that, unless like the smart bulb is labeled like LifeX. Then they can be very hard to distinguish a generic ESP-based light bulb from an ESP-based keylogger.
Yeah, that's where like unplugging it and plugging it back in and watching the handshakes is a really good way to figure out what network it's connecting to. And also, going and taking a look at the traffic that it's exchanging and then doing a subsequent Nmap scan to see if there's an interface you can connect to identify it. All that is a good way to just start to identify what it's doing and then what it is. Yeah,
and if you really wanted to get paranoid about that, that's where you would need to be using something like pfSense or like, and then some monitoring application on your pfSense router to be detecting like, oh, is there like a UDP stream that's just staying within the network and not really doing anything, and then you really have to like
somewhat like dig through some stuff in order to like figure that out. It would be super weird. But yeah, so interesting little way that you can get started using Wireshark and other free tools to identify what devices on your network are doing. I always love doing pieces on WPA decryption because it's so unpredictable. But I find that, did I even show that? Well, okay. So in order to make sure, do not switch over to my screen, I'll kill you. In order to make this work, one thing that I'll have to open is Wireshark again, so just give me a second. But if you are trying to do the decryption part that I did, and you're finding that it's just not working, then there is a reason for this. So I'm going to first eliminate the real username and password so I don't have to blur this, because otherwise it will be useless to all of you. Edit, and let me get rid of our real password real quick. So I did not know this originally, and it caused me much frustration. Okay, so go ahead and switch over to my screen now. So I'm going to add this fake credentials, but basically I need to go in and access WEP and WPA decryption keys, and then I can click on plus, and I can add WPA PWD in the following format: password, network name. Has to be like this. If you don't do it like this, then it will not work. How do you get there, you ask? Oh, I'm glad that you asked. From here, you will go to Edit, Preferences, then you'll go to Protocols, you'll press this down arrow, then you'll go through the million or so protocols to IEEE, which is here. And once we're at IEEE, we can click on Enable Decryption and then edit the encryption keys, and there they are. And once these are in place, then as soon as you get the handshake for a device, so as soon as it's disconnected and reconnects to the network, you should be able to see everything that it's doing that isn't encrypted. So if they're connecting to, a server with transportation layer security, then you won't be able to see what they're doing, but you will be able to see where they're connecting with name resolution and some of the other tools we've showed off today.
Cool. Oh, and I was going to show, it did pop up on our network again. So if you do have Ubiquiti or like something else like that, you can discover the device. So like here I renamed it Keylogger ? You know, you can see the obvious stuff like the MAC address, but some of the cool things you can do if you do have a router that's logging information like this is, when has this device been active? Other things would be like traffic identification. Or and it doesn't allow me to see the detail that you see on Wireshark, but I can see that the majority of its information is SMTP, protocol over TLS, and it's done like 308 kilobytes that way. So I'm assuming, you know, it's sending some amount of information out that way. And then, yeah, it's just interesting that once you do discover this, you can see like how active it's been and what it's been doing.
Yeah, there's definitely multiple different levels at which you can catch this. So if you do have a suspicious device like a keylogger you suspect is connected to your network doing rogue stuff, or even maybe there's a rogue person doing rogue stuff on your network, all of this will help you determine, you know, exactly what's going on and maybe figure out what that device is up to. Because when I found this, I was not very pleased and immediately wanted to know where it was transmitting to. So hopefully this is helpful to anybody else who's getting started with Wireshark or is trying to diagnose a malicious device they found connected to their network. And yeah, I think that's all we got this time. So thank you guys for watching. You can check out more on the Hacking with Friends show at Security Forward on YouTube or by going to hackingwithfriends.com. You can also check out more great content on the Varonis brand channel with our sometimes host Killian teaching the threat update, which goes through and shows off the attacks that real companies are facing and how they're dealing with them. All right. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.